Let's switch gears now. Let's talk about the government shutdown. We've been talking about the government shutdown. We've been tracking it by the day. Yesterday marked the longest stretch of the government shutdown in our nation's history. Today is day 37. And according to NBC News, and we reported some of this, but U.S. flights and energy bill assistance for low-income households are expected to be the latest casualties of the government shutdown as it continues into day 37. A lot of fallout, a lot of, for lack of a better term, political theater regarding the shutdown. I want to bring in Dr. Scott Huffmon, political science professor at Winthrop University. Nice to see you again, Dr. Huffmon.
Good to see you. Happy to be with you.
So let's get right to it. The longer this shutdown goes on, what sort of pressure does this put on lawmakers on both sides of the aisle? Not just them, but also the Trump administration.
Well, most people tend to blame the president in the past. Trump is an exception to everything. But in the past, most people tend to blame the president whenever the economy goes sour. And of course, the president always takes credit when the economy is doing well, whether he was responsible or not. Clinton was an example of that. The internet boom of the 90s made the economy go great. Of course, he took credit. They are violating the Hatch Act by putting on every government website, hey, we've shut down because of the Democrat-led government shutdown. We're sorry. That's a violation of the Hatch Act, which says, civil servants can't do political things. So they are doing their best to lay this at the feet of the Democrats. Democrats are trying to explain, look, we're just trying to get healthcare subsidies back. They were taken out of the one big beautiful bill. We're trying to get them back. Republicans are flipping that and saying, oh, they want health care for illegal immigrants. As we know, that's literally not true. But both sides are really taking flack for this. But we have seen in these 2005 elections, and again, it's not common to have these type of off-year elections, but several states have gubernatorial elections like New Jersey and Virginia in years like this. We have seen votes really going against Trump in these. And so it raises the question, the longer this, goes on, and Trump is spoiling for a fight, he's enjoying this fight. The longer this goes on, will it sort of tarnish Trump's gold touch to anything related to Republican candidates?
Yeah, I was just about to ask that. I mean, about the election, and we're a couple of days removed from the election. Is that a fair narrative that, the shutdown had an impact? That's all folks are seeing right now. Is that fair to say that the shutdown had an impact on the outcome of the election?
I think some anti-Trump sentiment absolutely had an impact on the vote. I would definitely say in Virginia, it had a probable direct impact because one of the most populous areas of Virginia is the Northern Virginia area. A lot of those people work for the government or for companies that do things for the government, so government adjacent companies. They are being directly affected by this shutdown, and they had all day Tuesday to show up and vote. And Spanberger won by really strong margins. Loudoun County is a great example. It's just outside of D.C., and it leans Democrat, but it had gone a little more Republican for Trump in 2024. It went, I want to say, 29 points for Spanberger in the gubernatorial election. And the Republicans swept the statewide elections in Virginia. And of course, they won the governorship in New Jersey as well, against a candidate who was endorsed by Trump. So we are seeing across the country where we have these off-year elections, Trump's golden touch isn't there. Whether or not he gets it back before the 2026 midterms, a whole different question. But right now, the shutdown is really tarnishing Trump's touch. We'll see if it comes back. But in answer to your question, yes, Trump and the shutdown, I believe, had a direct effect on the elections that happened on Tuesday. in most of the states where they happened.
And with that being said, I'm going to bring up 2026. I'm going to bring up the midterms. And I know you're going to be like, Nick, why are you talking about the midterms? We just finished an election. Any impact? Do folks have short memories? Are folks going to think about what's happened in this stretch? Granted, we're still in the government shutdown next November.
There's two answers to that. The short answer is it's going to be difficult for it to be front of mind because of the 24-hour, heck, 25-hour news cycle that goes on. There are two new things every minute to try and keep track of. People are also siloed in their news. Many of them only listen to news sources that agree with them, so they're not really getting the whole picture. And to the degree that they continue to do that, what's happening now won't really be as salient. On the other hand, if a lot of these impacts stay, like people's health care premiums going up significantly, if inflation continues, if SNAP benefits, and a lot of Republicans that represent rural states, a lot of their constituents are on SNAP. If these things continue, they will be front of mind in 2026. And in that case, you could see Republicans in super safe seats only win by a smaller margin, and Republicans in generally safe seats actually lose. And this is what's been spurring the Republican push to redistrict. And of course, the reverse by the Democrats trying to do it. The Democrats, what they're doing in California is interesting because California has a much more fair way of drawing congressional districts. They have a nonpartisan commission. So they had to have an election on Tuesday for all the people in California to say, hey, we're going to make an exception this time and let there be redistricting by the legislature, and then they're going to go back to their nonpartisan drawing of the districts. So it is retaliation against what's happening in Texas and in North Carolina and probably in South Carolina. So the Republicans are anticipating a hard 2026. That's clear from what they're doing with the redistricting. If all these issues remain front of mind for the voters, yeah, it's going to impact the 2026 midterm elections.
And Governor Gavin Newsom was not shy about the intentions of Prop 50 there in California, not in the slightest. Let's stay in the future for a little bit. When we take a step back and the dust is settled and we are maybe a couple of years removed, how will we view this shutdown? How do you predict that this shutdown will be viewed?
You have to get past Trump's Republican Party. If we look back at Bush's Republican Party, there's a very different view, even by Republicans, of George W. Bush, not George H.W. Bush, of George W. Bush's Republican Party. He was seen as the neocon who wanted to go to war both in Iraq, which had nothing to do with 9/11, and in Afghanistan. Those attitudes were super supported at the time. They are absolutely not supported right now. People look back at George W. Bush and see somebody who doesn't match their idea of what a Republican, quote unquote, should be today. Trump's Republican Party is not Ronald Reagan's Republican Party. So we will have to get as far removed from the Trump Republican Party as we are from Bush's Republican Party, at least, before we can look back and say, this is how it's viewed. Because before that, people will be defending it, people will be attacking it only because of Trump. And then, of course, that also raises the question of who takes up the torch when Trump is no longer president. Can they hold his coalition together? Because a lot of Trump supporters are not as much Republican supporters as they are MAGA Trump supporters. So can that coalition be held together? But we're 10 plus years out from being able to fairly look back at this era.
Yeah, we just really kind of started unpacking the shutdown in 2018, 2019. So that's a fair point there. I have a couple of more questions to ask you. I want to pivot to Nancy Pelosi. She announced that she's not running for re-election next year. She's held that seat there in California, representing San Francisco, for over 2 decades at this point. What does this mean for potential leaders within the Democrat Party? Because you see a guy, granted, mayor of New York, Mamdani, different from the traditional Democratic leadership. But what does this say about the new potential new leaders of the Democrat Party, and new leaders that could take over that position?
Well, it depends on where they come from. There's going to be a fork in the Democratic Party when it comes 2026 and especially 2028. The candidates who come from much more liberal districts, like right now, New York and the New York City districts, or parts of California that are more liberal. And remember, there are rural farm parts of California that are very conservative. Nancy Pelosi is probably going to be replaced by someone more liberal than a mainstream Democrat from say somewhere outside of Atlanta. And we're going to see that change in leadership. Hakeem Jeffries is going to take on more responsibility. Hopefully Generation X, my generation that has had no impact on anyone ever, might have a chance to actually get a foot in the door. We're going to see millennials starting to run. Millennials have that giant generation. They are now bigger than the boomers. They don't have the money of the boomers because the boomers have hoarded it and kept it, and the millennials can't even buy houses now. But when they get into Congress, and they will start getting into Congress as the older members start retiring, like Nancy Pelosi, we're going to see some fundamental changes. And of course, Nancy Pelosi was an incredibly polarizing figure, even within her own party. She was one of the people who said, no, we shouldn't prevent members of Congress from trading stocks and making profits off of it. And that was an ethical issue that even her own party was trying to push. So Nancy Pelosi, obviously divisive between the parties, but also a bit divisive within her party. It's going to be a real contest to replace her, but it's also going to be a generational fight to replace her, and that will be interesting to watch.
A politician with a lot of power, especially when it comes to the 2024 election, and how those developments played out. One more question, and I do want to point out I am a millennial, so I do agree with you on that point. I will say, speaking of a younger generation, you see students every day. You see those younger voters, those first-time voters. How are they viewing? How are they talking about this shutdown and where we are politically?
Well, remember, I see a biased subgroup of students.
Yeah.
The students I see as a political science professor, much more likely to be aware and engaged in politics. So to the degree that they are engaged in politics, they're not as engaged as people watching this right now. So they are not as aware of what the issues of the shutdown are or what the long-term ramifications are. And these are students who are political science students. We are having to explain it to them. So if they're in another major, not getting, taught in a political science class about what's going on, they're really divorced from it until it starts hitting them directly. Now, I will say a lot of our Gen Z students have been hit by this economy directly. There are food banks at Winthrop around Rock Hill. They are constantly being used by people of older generations, but by college students as well, or college age students as well. So they're aware that it's going on. They're not sure how it's going to directly affect them. But when they start leaving college, if they've taken some political science courses, they will realize oh, in my first job, this is why these things are happening. Yeah, I'm going to make sure I vote more and make my generation relevant, more relevant than us Gen Xers.
And us millennials as well.
Y'all are huge. You're huge.
Yeah.
When you start showing up at the polls, you will literally change everything.
Dr. Scott Huffmon, I could ask you questions for the next hour, but I won't because I know you're a busy man. But thank you, thank you for taking time to be a part of Live Impact News. We reach out to you often. Again, thank you, political science professor at Winthrop University there in South Carolina. Thank you.
Happy to be with you. Many thanks.